Yeah, I just linked you to.
Yeah, but you know this.
Peace, family.
Peace, family. Yes, yes, we here. Another episode, right? We should start calling ourselves Surviving. Yeah, exactly. I do that all the time.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We should just start naming our show "Surviving Being Black."
Well,
I'm just saying. We'll switch it
inside
up.
the black experience.
Yeah, instead of inside the black experience,
or the black experience,
the black experience, right? You know,
right
going
on.
into it, you know what I mean. You know, we here again, family. I'm just being honest, right? Connecting with the black experience. We are back with you today on our regular time, right on Wednesday.
Right on.
You know, 8:30 for those folks waking up. Great risings. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let my nephew on here in the middle of me and Queen Mama Roll introduce himself and say who he is before we really dive in. Go ahead, King.
Man, I wear a lot of hats. My name is Khalil. I'm a Sac State grad. Got my degrees in international relations and economics. Even most recently, one of the Ardent 13, which was down the Ardent Mall. And even more recently, one of the 84 persons arrested on March 4th on that overpass on 51st Street.
No doubt, no doubt, no. And also a part of the coalition of black students, right? You know what I'm saying? CBS. And of course, the lovely, the energetic, the influential, the spiritual mother of healing.
Very.
Queen Mama Roll. What's up with you, Queen?
Oh, nothing much, nothing much.
Look at look at you. You going on a
Thank
date after
you.
this? You
No,
know what I'm saying? I'm just saying.
Barry. I'm
just
going to go
saying.
see one of my homeboys give his lecture.
Okay.
You know, it's Hispanic History Month, but he's African,
Nice.
black from
Nice.
Honduras. So he's going to talk about indigenous people, and this brother definitely has a revolutionary brother. It's deep, deep. So I'm going to support him at Sac State. So, you know, I
Okay.
got to come representing.
Oh, so he's a Latino brother.
He black like us.
Afro-Latino.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he don't use that term, man.
Yeah, yeah.
He's Griffiner, which is totally different than being an Afro-Latino.
Really?
Yeah, because these are people who never lost their Africanism, so they're not hyphenated nothing. They're Garifunas.
I like that.
Or Garifuna, however you pronounce it.
See,
It's a dope brother right there.
This is why I love rocking with my queen, man, because she got
Dope
those
brother.
isms, the history facts, and everything else like that. All right, so a lot of people on my other podcast that I do with my brother Jermaine Morris say something. You know, that's going to be coming up pretty soon. I know we haven't been on it because we've been so busy. You know, popping
Miss
this
y'all.
new podcast. Yeah, I definitely need to get back on it. We've been so busy. A lot of you're going to experience everything that happens when you're doing live, right? So I had to bring my Stephon Clark case, and just want to frame it out. Stephon Clark, 22-year-old black male, murdered by SAC PD behind his grandparents' home. It's been a whole, almost a year, because we're in the month of March where Stephon Clark got murdered. And it was a lot of speculation on the decision. For those folks like myself and many other individuals, activists, community leaders, clergy, that kind of have been a part of the movement of Stephon Clark, but even further to that, have been a part of this reform or this idea of justice in our community since 2014, really starting with a lot of the strong advocacy here in Sacramento with Trayvon Martin, even though he was not killed by police, but kind of really sparking even deeper with the Michael Brown incident. Understanding the lens of what happened with Michael Brown in Ferguson was simply something that was eventually going to happen here in Sacramento. And here in 2018, we had Stephon Clark. We had other major incidents, but none of them really going national. One of those being Joseph Mann in 2016, a homeless brother, a transient brother, that I believe if he was in the mix, right, of what Stephon kind of Clark was, a little bit younger, Stephon Clark, a father of two, I believe that would have probably been our national moment. But the national moment came when Stephon Clark got murdered. And a lot of the focus was on the DA. A lot of the focus was on the new crown champion of Sacramento, Chief Daniel Hunt, because he was the black savior, because he was the first black chief here in Sacramento, the profound son coming back to his community, and all things were going to change and all things were going to be right. As well as that, we had a transition from mayors. We had Kevin Johnson that left kind of in a lot of controversy, and the incumbent, the politician himself, Darrell Steinberg, now coming into this new idea of Sacramento, as well as building into the Sacramento Renaissance they like to talk about with downtown. So, I preference that to say, here we are in the next year of what the DA was supposed to give as what we say, something that we were familiar with, but something that we didn't realize was going to happen in the way she conducted the actual evidence that let her say why she could not charge Stephon Clark. It was the defaming
Why she couldn't
and
charge Stephon Clark case.
excuse me, Stephon Clark's case. Thank you,
Right on.
thank you. It was the defaming and the slander and the criminalization of Stephon Clark. It was a destruction, as I would like to say, it was destruction of a character at its best. Instead of us looking at the actual facts, and here, let me just preference this as well, family. Understand, I'm going to help the DA out one particular time. Due to the laws that protect the police officers, as well as just law in general, as a prosecutor or a DA, you're looking at the case. This case would have been a case if she did charge the officers, she would have lost it within minutes. There was nothing here substantial to show that the officers did anything wrong in the letter of the law that they are submitted to. So the reality of that came when she had her first press conference and her only press conference and laid down the letter of the law. So when she laid down that first press conference, I already knew from then that they were never going to charge Stephon Clark murderers, the two police officers, but they dragged us on this journey, on this ride, where there's been protests, there's been shut down, there's been activism, there's been anger, there's been sadness, there's been mental health breakdowns, there's been a lot of other things that have come up from this Stephon Clark case when we talk about the lack of equity in these underserved communities, as well as these over police communities, these food deserts, so many different things that we saw in Sacramento from our view, but other people didn't see it because they didn't want to believe it was actually happening. To talk about race in Sacramento now is no longer a thing that you have to say, shh. It's a thing that now folks are open to because we opened up Pandora's box. I say this in preference to how she created the idea that Stephon Clark was not the victim, but the criminal. She destroyed his character by using text messages from him and his girlfriend, a toxicology report that showed he was had some drugs in his system, as well as the numerous infractions that he had prior to his demise. By this, she was basically saying he deserved to die. And the unfortunate part of that, there were some things that didn't state on facts when she utilized the idea that Stephon Clark was vandalizing. And us as community are looking like, well, if he vandalized, well, show us the proof. Well, she said we got his DNA on A, B, and C, but yet didn't show us A, B, and C, right? So we had to take her word on it. So I think what we got from all those folks that have been on the ground, for all the folks that have been working diligently, hoping that we could probably get something, we were optimistic, but understanding our reality that there have been cases on the DA's caseload that were a lot more, here it is, okay, all in black, not in a gray area, like you gotta arrest and convict these guys, because in the Joseph Mann case, the police officer is heard saying, run his ass over. And I'm just being very content with the conversation. It went deeper than that. She didn't convict. The DA, Anne Marie Schubert, has had over 30 cases of officer misconduct and officer homicide, and not one of those 30 cases of those officers have ever been charged. So understand what we're dealing with. But I think what happened with the rage are a few different things before I let my folks come in and really chime in with this. It's this. One, you drag the community, you drag the family all the way down this emotional roller coaster, this hill and these mountains of us believing, of us having faith, of us thinking, of us imagining that there could be some change, and us having this idea that Sacramento would want to be the first cities in this country to show this is what policing looks like and this is how police will be held accountable. That didn't happen. Then, when the time of giving the information that the DA needed to go to the people, because it was like, time's up. What is going to be the verdict? Are you going to charge them or not? All of the date changes. It's going to be this time. It's going to be this time. It's going to be this time. So when you're switching up, it's just like, well, when you're doing it on a Friday, what do you do doing it? Then when you actually did do it, you did it on a Saturday. You did it when the Kings weren't playing at the arena. You did it when it was storming. So that piece of the manipulation also played into the psyche of people, as well as all of these dog and pony meetings with public officials, with community leadership, clergies, and other people that have stake in this game about what's going to happen with Stephon Clark's decision. Multiple meetings trying to create these ideas of safe zones, these ideas of city officials when the verdict happens, marching with the people to show a sign of solidarity. The sign of solidarity should have happened when the DA was going up for re-election and we asked city officials, only one, Alan Warren, to say, please do not endorse this woman. Most stayed silent, half of the others endorsed. And that goes for the mayor, that goes for other leaders that have been a part of this quote-unquote safe zone acts. You have an idea that when we as a people are saying this DA has to go, none of you guys are speaking out and signing off on that. So public opinion for us is like, you don't really care. So you have all of these things, as well as the last part of sacrificing his legacy in front of people, those people that believe he's a criminal, the family members that know him from a different side, creating that image of the stereotypes that we hear about black males, to say that that's the reason why the police should be free to kill more black men, kill more black women, damn it, kill black people in general. Those pieces were things to where you have this anger from the people, as well as the media. Let me not stop with the media. As well as the media creating this idea that black people was going to go out there and riot, loot, and have an uprising. So before you guys even made a decision, you was basically telling us it ain't going to go well. it ain't going to go well. So you have all these things, which leads us to here. And, you know, Mama Ro, when you, I know I dropped some gems out there, how to kind of break it down. Mama Ro, let's go to you real quick on it. Your feelings, your...
You know, I'm not shocked, Keon. I mean, Keon, Lord Jesus, Barry.
Shouts out to the brother.
Yeah. Hey, Keon. I'm not really shocked because I understand history. I understand who we're up against. I understand what this beast is all about. So for me, I'm never shocked. And I'm not mad at people for being shocked. That's another thing. Like, that's a part of your human experience to have 50 million emotions. I think the only thing that irritates me when there's really no real plan. When there's no real plan, like I can't imagine going for freedom in the time of slavery and asking the people who are enslaving me to help me find my way to freedom. That irritates me to the core. It's like when I went to some of those meetings, Barry, on Fridays, and I looked at the people in the room. Yeah, and I only went to 2, and I was made to go to 2 because when the elders tell me to go to the meeting, I go because I'm old school, you know. However, when I sat in there, I'm like, we can't ask people who are part of the machine to dismantle the machine. That's crazy. We knew this woman. I mean, I've been places where there's been black DAs and they follow suit. So her being, you know, a white woman with blonde hair and whatever, her husband could be black. I don't know. But what I'm saying to say, it's a machine that they're a part of. It's a system that has been up for over 400 years that have slaughtered all kind of people and crushed people and terrorized people. And it's like there has to be a different plan, and that's the courageous part because they're coming out of their ancestors' playbook, keeping their system alive, and we don't read the playbook from our ancestors to know this worked, this don't work, maybe we could do this more, we got to be a little bit more strategic. And I'm not letting them off the hook, but I never try to put people on the hook who don't have my best interests at heart. I have to always go back to my own base. What am I going to do to protect my own? What am I going to do to protect any of us that's out there? You know, I was very proud to see the young people out there holding their ground. I was very proud. I was proud to see older people come in and make sure they was okay, doing a part that they couldn't do. That to me made me feel proud, but I also think we got to expand this conversation beyond Stephon Clark. Because you know what? That's what they try to get us hung up on. It's kind of like, we know Rosa Parks wasn't the first black woman to sit on that bus, but the other lady wasn't as poised as Rosa Parks. I mean, she wasn't actually upright, or she didn't belong to a social organization. That's why she was a single mom. She was a teenage mom. She just didn't fit the, so we're used to them. It always makes me think of the spook who stepped out the door when the revolution jumped off. It didn't jump off because they killed a civic leader. It jumped off because they had killed somebody that was selling drugs in their community, but he still was a human being, and people knew they had to get up and fight for him, no matter how they felt about what he was doing in their community. So it's like we just got to be a little bit more smarter about this. Those of us on the other side, of trying to get things for our community. I don't know what you do with elected officials. I don't know what you do with this woman. I think I always wonder where the law of the street is, because that's the one thing that's always governed in black communities, was a law inside the street. It was never the law inside the police department. These are the patty rollers, boo. That's what their job is to, police are there to protect property and money and class and to hold up this system that we know that was going to crush us. We know that. But we've always had these other plans of protecting each other to provide, because there's pros and cons in this. Because the sad part is we know we got a straight up arching enemy. We know this. But we also got enemies inside the house. People who make money off of us. They out there now. I'm new to Sacramento. I'm going to come. Nigga, you ain't even from here. But you coming to get your cash. We're trying to make some statements at the mall, and I totally get that. But also that's connected to single moms who are in poverty with a job. So you got to be just so careful not to, all those police got all that goddamn overtime. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like there's such pros and cons to the whole thing, which we lose, because let me say this, the DA wasn't speaking to us.
Not at all.
The DA wasn't speaking to this boy's family, to this young man's family. She was speaking to her base. This is how we demonize people. The same way when they slaughtered Native Americans, they had to make you think they weren't human. The same way they had us in slavery. They didn't say, here's a fine young man we're going to say. No, this is an animal. This is a beast. This is a savage. They weren't talking to us. They were talking to their base that's going to go along with the storyline and be like, that's why we couldn't do so and so. It ain't natural for you to do. Or even if they thought he did something, you shoot him in the ankle. You don't shoot the person in the like you would hunting for animals. You trying to save the meat. You don't shoot the animal with a bullet dispersed. You shoot it in the calf. You shoot it in they know how to shoot like that. They go to shooting range every damn Sunday while we in church praying. They in the shooting range spraying.
Listen, stop that girl. I can't get to you like I want. I can't get you like I want.
All these pros and cons, Barry. I look at the whole thing, and I'm so sorry for the loss of life.
No doubt.
I just feel like we have to cherish life in such a way where it makes a bigger statement, no matter what the DA does.
Okay.
What's our plan as a people? What's our plan? We got grieving mothers, we got grieving family members. We got people that just trigger stuff for their family. These are all triggers here. That's all I'm saying. What made you go be a part of this, brother? I just got to jump into you because I'd just be like, this stuff is history. This is real.
Real quick, Queen, everything you said, even in this situation, because as part of helping my young folk, really seize the moment of what was going to happen next and how to manipulate the media before the media manipulates us, and really kind of show this concentrated effort from not only the young folk, but clergy and community leadership in a unified way to do something again for the second year in a row, shut something totally down. Even though I hear what you're saying about the ideas that, yes, a single mother didn't get to work, I get it.
A few single moms
yeah, true. But at the end of the day,
and when people get their many grants, they're not going to go and reimburse those communities that they claim they didn't have a place for them to go.
Sometimes the sacrifice of that proportion moving forward is something that has to happen for a greater cause. And a greater cause was we put more pressure on things to happen because it reignited, understand me? It reignited what happened then the next night. The next day is now, okay, we go to do the march down in the fabulous 40s in Richfield and East Sacramento, and now you have 80 arrests plus. And now folks are re-looking at, Sacramento is getting hot, because what happened was they thought we were going to burn this whole city down when the decision came down.
They knew you wasn't.
But if they
you know what I mean? That's
they
what I'm
put
saying.
it out there.
But they knew you weren't. It's a game of chess. Look, I understand what you said. I just want to hear why the young people went and did the thing at the mall. That's one. But I just got to put that in there because when you're going to govern your own nation, you do have to think about the less vulnerable, not this one incident in time. When you black, you got to juggle, you got to chew bubble gum, you got to cook, you got to moonwalk, you got to do all of these things at one time.
Don't forget Cabbage Patch.
And Cabbage Patch. We got to do all of it. And I'm saying to myself, it's okay to look at that.
Yeah.
Because it dawned on me that people who get the money from this shutting down, they don't take care of the single mama who had to go to that mall and work. And I'm pretty sure that wasn't even their idea. That's why when we talk about that, we have to say we're so sorry for this people it would affect, but in the longer run, not just like we're just gonna make you a casualty, because now we're being like the beast. When he uses the word casualty, he's not casual about dying. Ain't that casual about signing on to something. It's like, dude, I'm trying to pay my damn rent. I mean, the little bit I can pay. So I feel like we have to, even in our language, say, hey, we sorry that it affected some people who probably really need this, but this is for us all. You gotta make people feel like we're just not gonna sacrifice you like they sacrificed this boy's life in the backyard because they felt like they were shooting at a cat or a dog. But shit, they wouldn't shoot at a cat or a dog because they love cats.
Yeah, the mountain lion just went through the Thomas and was able to go through the Thomas, hang out, get some dinner, and they tranquilized him, and he's back into the into his forest.
So that wasn't a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm just saying, but I think it's like even as we do our work to kind of talk, just to say, hey, it wasn't. Hey, we're going to try to get that in because what I do see, I see the money game part of it. I see the money game where people come in and they get money, but you shut this shit for who? For you? For some dollars? You know what I mean? Hey, y'all, I'm really sorry that y'all couldn't go to work, but we got to, this is a bigger thing. It's about us feeling like we belong to each other. We're connected. Not that you're my sacrifice and I don't really value you. Because it hurts like hell when I know black life don't mean shit to black people. That hurts me worse than the DA. Or the police. I'm used to them hurting me. That's their job.
That's
almost.
what it is.
But it ain't our job to do that to each other. That's all I'm saying. And I know people got paid. The police department got paid all that damn overtime to sit up there and terrorize people and do military tactics. It's like they were doing practice on y'all for real.
No doubt.
It was a practice run. What made the young people sit and tell me this plan that y'all came up with?
Well, Mama, you know, if you mentioned not reading our ancestors and seeing what went right and what went wrong. And that's what I've been doing for the past year and a half, 2 years, and grew up in the nation. So my upbringing with regards to group economics and economic prosperity. I started off with a quote by Ida B. Wells. She said the appeal to the white man's pockets has been ever more effectual than appeal made to his conscience. So that being said, I like to cite the Montgomery bus boycott, even though the longevity of that was 381 days, over a year long, where they decreased the profits of the bus corporations in Montgomery. That was able to lead to their progress of, I guess, desegregation. You know, we may have contentions about whether that was progress or not. Still, that model of economic protest and disturbance has proven to be more generous to us with regards to our demands than appealing to their conscience, because essentially they don't have a conscience; they see money. So, with regards to shutting down the mall, that was, like I said in the interview with the reporter, was more exponential than we intended. With a few of us, we just wanted to disturb the economic bearings of, let's say, Champs, like I said, Apple, Victoria's Secret, Macy's, the more lucrative businesses, just to show that we mean business. You know, in some manner, we can disrupt your business and decrease your profits. Right. Essentially, was a great feat that we got the mall closed. The plan is, at least with the Ardent 13 and the Coalition of Black Students, is really to disrupt economic mechanisms, perpetuate that in some manner. You know, we started off with the mall. Next time, maybe the school walkout, where the schools aren't, you know, the schools aren't getting money because the students aren't in class. There's different manners in which we're taking away from the mechanism of the capitalist structure in some way. My plan is really not to have this go on for a week, but go on for months, for life for it to go up to a year, to 381 days, like the Montgomery bus boycott. And back to kind of what, you know, Barry was saying, you know, back on the DA's case, and how we're not really surprised of the verdict, but really it ignited us in the way she dehumanized them. Let's put this out, for example, why we should not be shocked at the DA's findings, and then the Attorney General's findings yesterday, who of course didn't find him wrong.
He got that privilege, huh?
But if you look in the past decade, since let's go from Oscar Grant. Since Oscar Grant was killed, there's been maybe 3 officers charged and convicted. And how many instances of police killings of black people or people in general throughout the United States? The latest one being the officer in Philly And even look at what Johannes Messerly got. He got charged, 8 months and got off 4 months on good behavior? No, the way the spontaneous moments is parallel to how that same attorney defended Johannes Messerly. So when we look at we analyze how District Attorney Ann Schubert, I guess, presented her case, she acted like she was in front of a judge and a jury. Literally, that was not a satisfactory evidence presentation for the officers. That was a defense, an exculpatory defense of the officers in front of a judge and jury. She dehumanized him. She criticized his character and broke it down as if she was in trial already without even really being in trial. So it's not even really a matter of us being shocked. The DA's findings is the manner in which she did it, which isn't surprising as well. But it's just like it's demoralizing because this transparency that we're supposed to have between law enforcement with Black Savior Daniel Hahn. That all went out the
What'd you go?
Black Savior, quote unquote.
The Black Savior. Daniel Hahn's gonna save the world.
That went out the window, especially the night we 84 arrests, and yet he has no statement as to why that they took the tactics they did. And if you break it down for
He didn't give a statement.
I haven't heard anything.
Okay, I'm just asking. That's fine.
I could be wrong, but I haven't heard anything.
No,
I've been watching.
He didn't make a statement in City Hall yesterday.
I haven't heard anything.
You know what I mean? But I just thought
He didn't say
maybe.
nothing.
Okay, Chief Hahn, if you're listening, we're gonna need a statement, bruh.
Matter of fact, Chief Hahn, you can come on the show.
Yeah,
You
come
want me
on
to
and
get
talk to us. Yeah.
Oh, you would love that.
Let's see what we got.
Chief
What
Hahn
is
on
it
the
like
show.
to be from the hood and then come and be the top cop and then, yeah.
We'll take
I
it
would love
easy
to
on my
hear
brother.
that. Yeah, I would love to hear
Go
that.
ahead, King.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. But if at the city council before the night, made that try to make that the parallels between the slave catchers and the Fugitive Slave Act to contemporary law enforcement. And even while I was detained that night we got arrested, I'm just asking officers, do you know your history? Because they don't. Half of them didn't know what the Fugitive Slave Act was. They don't know the origins of their own organization. Starting with the Slave Patrol. You could be 16 and 65. That's all you had to be to register as Slave Patrol. They didn't even know that they would take all freed slaves from the North and bring them back to slavery in the South. I'm not even going to the economic.
No, slow down, young boy. Go ahead and get deeper into that slave catcher. Go in there. Bring it out. Because I think people need to really understand when we preference the slave catcher, and this is what it's all, this is modern day slave catching at its finest for Negroes that don't know. For Negroes that believe that we're not behind enemy lines. Break that down, Ken.
Man, they rounded us up. They were created as institutions. We were deemed as property.
Talk.
So when we ran away, if they were either caught or they even saw black men, they were either ask you for your papers. Do you have papers from Massa saying you can be off Massa's plantation? If not, they taking you back to Massa. Sometimes they would steal them from other plantations to take them to other plantations. So if you look at the parallels between, so I got pulled over, I think it was like maybe 4 months ago, twice in the same week in front of my house. I live in Arden. The sheriff pulled me over. They didn't even ask me for my driver's license. First thing they asked me was I on probation or parole. That's the first thing. Setting the precedence that if you belong to the state, and I can search this car for any reason. Same way, do you have your papers? If not, I'm taking you back to the plantation. So those are just two simple parallels. Don't even really ask me for my driver's license. The first thing they ask me, are you on probation or parole? Setting the precedence. Wow. And I can guarantee you they don't ask a white person in a white neighborhood in the Fab 40s if they pull anybody over in the Fab 40s. They're not asking them, are you on probation or parole? I got pulled over twice in the same week. Let me tell you the first one. This is actually pretty stupid. I'm coming down. It's a two-way with a separate yellow little dash line. I see him coming down. I usually bust a U-turn to get in my parking spot. I'm like, I don't even want to do that. I don't want to, he might pull me over just for an illegal U-turn. I don't know. So I make a right turn to the neighborhood, pull into a driveway. He makes a left into the neighborhood. As soon as I pull into the driveway and bust around, he turns around and I get in my parking spot. He pulls me over. First thing he asked me, he said, "Why are you avoiding me?"
Wow.
Didn't even have a reason to pull me over. He said, "Why are you avoiding me?" Like, bro, what are you talking about? I just wanted to turn around and get my parking spot. So it's that mentality that they are the law and they set the precedents to do whatever they want because they can enforce the law and take you back to jail whenever they want if they can find a reason. So those parallels between the slave catchers and sheriff and law enforcement, the police, however, are still here, and that's why we still call them the slave patrol nowadays. Even when we were getting detained, they were like, "Yeah, we got another batch coming in. Go round up some more."
Now let's go back into that.
Wow.
Let's go back into that. Okay, because we got a lot of parallels. We got a lot of connecting the dots, right?
Yeah.
from when the decision happened, it was like no charge. We were all shocked again that it was the slander, and it was like, whoa, I didn't know Stephon Clark's trial was on TV.
Exactly.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, okay, like, I don't need to hear about his relationship with his BM. I don't need to hear about all the other extra things he's done. He was a 22-year-old black male living in America with a failed public food system that he came out of, right? And a failed community that they have not invested in, right? When BLM did their first piece, that was kind of the start. They did their occupation over there at the SAC PD office on Freeport Boulevard, right? Burned some blue light flags, right? Then of course it was the next round, which was on the same day because it was the the protest at the mall, the sit-in. You guys, you called me up, we need support, come rock. You know, we didn't get the information as quick as we wanted to, but kind of like felt we needed to do a little bit more from the last protest, right? And it worked out in a way that we didn't even kind of calculate it. And I sat there and I talked to y'all, I said, as we do this, make your demands, right? I want you to make sure before the show ends, you tell the demands, right? Now, we made much noise in that moment where it spooked the powers that be to where they weren't going to open, because we had a whole different game plan, right? That was going to happen. And when folks was ready to go because they were tired, and I understood that, that's why I was there to say, y'all young people, let's get grounded. If we do A, B, and C, the results of what is now would not have happened, right?
Exactly.
So now, going from that, the momentum is picking up, and now you have the Fab 40s, where a group of courageous leaders said, finally, something I've been telling folks for a while, why aren't we walking through the rich neighborhoods? Like, well, forget about the hood, the neighborhoods that we do. Let's go to the rich, fluent neighborhoods and start knocking on doors, start ringing doorbells and start, hey, trick or treat, right? Now when we go there, what I remember as I left, because I felt that everything was good, and I talked to one of the organizers, and they're like, yo, we're leaving, we good, yeah, we're done with the protest, we're gonna get into our cars. My car was in the 40s, so I was walking back to make sure I didn't get told to get a ticket. You guys, as I was walking, I remember, because there was a little bit of some friction, because a white person from that neighborhood, or could have been a person that was planted there with a MAGA hat, got the MAGA hat took, right? So there was some commotion, and as me as being a peacekeeper, when I'm not leading a march, or when I'm invited to a march, or when I'm just supporting the march with my people, I know my position. Hey, make sure people are safe, get it out of the provocateurs that's trying to kind of incite something that shouldn't be there. The police were so engaged in making sure we moved a certain way now, because no longer we had the direction of what we were doing. It was a direction of how they were pushing us. What I've heard, and speak to this, that as the direction was going, say, we're going to go back to our car, the action is over, we're not going to go on the freeways to shut it down or whatever like that. What happened in a time when you guys were trying to get into the cars, then getting pushed to another direction? Can you explain that piece?
So that was just, man, that's the epitome of manipulative tactics.
And I think it also speaks under the fact of what we're talking about, modern day slave catchers, because they caught the slaves. Go ahead.
It was a form of manipulative tactics. So they're telling us to disperse and pushing us one way. So they're pushing us back towards 51st by that Trader Joe's down Folsom. But then they have a line spread out. So for whatever reason, as the protest, the march is coming to an end, as we're filtering in numbers, they decided to bring more police. So as that happening, we see more officers come. It's like,
so as protesters leave and activists are gone, more police come.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then they spread out through the parking lot, Trader Joe's, and even before that, they kind of make a line there. Then as you turn to the right to look up 51st, they have a perimeter set up there. So as they're pushing us, they're setting up two ways at which, let's say if we had cars to go up. And then as they push us back literally to the intersection of 51st and Folsom, there's another group of officers coming on the third side to shut off the three ways that we have to go to our cars. So we're literally telling us to disperse, but not giving us the means or the routes to. So the next thing we do is we go down 51st. There's lights down there in the far distance. Not sure if we're associated with us or not. However, as we got down there and got towards the overpass, police on bikes cut off that overpass, and we turn around thinking, okay, we can just walk back up and let's just go home or whatever. Let's find another route. We're met with like militia force, some kind of police military force looking blockade and riot gear 4 rows deep of like 8 people surrounding us. So we're like, what is going on? And they like force us to get on the all on the sidewalk, and then we can't go any further. We're like literally in a pouch in the corner of the overpass because of course they still have that road block, that the end of the overpass block, and won't let us get through that for by any means. And they kind of surround us like like a gang almost, like we got the you got the mouse trapped in the corner and they can't go nowhere. So we're sitting there with our hands up, we're sitting there with our phones out, trying to make sure everything is transparent, at least so people can see what's going on and see the BS.
And nobody was being violent, right?
Nobody was being violent.
No one was cussing at the police. There was no immediate danger for the police.
No.
Okay.
The thing is, they're telling us to disperse, but now you have us blocked on both ends of the overpass. Like, really, where do you want us to go? Over the overpass? I'm sure they would have loved to, but a bit more controversial for them. And they just began randomly arresting folks and didn't even realize they had the press in there and detained the press. So it just made them look, like military force, like that over-militarized police that we've been talking about, that we've been preaching to the community about for years. Even Black Panthers, you have Angela Davis who's written books on the over-policing of black men and women of the black community, but yet no one really accepts that until it happens to them. No, that was really the biggest display of over-policing and the militarization of the police in that manner. I still have the video on my phone. You should see at one point, it grows from that 4 lines that I told you about to swelter, so about maybe 8. And there's about at least 100 officers out there for us.
So when I was out there, I remember there was somewhat of like 200 some folks that was just taking the streets of the Fab 40s, right? And of course, the energy, the power, some of the great conversation. Shouts out to Dr. Flo and the rest of the team that put that thing together. And all for what I loved about that was it was like how we've been doing it in the past. No one cared. No one was set tripping on who did what. It was like, just show up. Let's be in the numbers. Because it's about a number game. Yeah. And at one particular time, I think that we probably outnumbered the police for a little bit, right? Now, as the numbers dwindled, what was the reasoning for the police to not allow people to get back into their cars and to leave after the protest was pretty much over?
And it's messed up because they, being the police, we know that they're always going to push their narrative. So, of course, they said vandalism was the reason why we had to disperse and we had to, they started becoming more aggressive. Coming to find out, they said 5 cars were keyed. 5 slaves to go because 5 cars were keyed. Is that really, that's that slave catcher mentality. Like, let's find the smallest reason to get a group of slaves and catch them and send them back to Massa. They didn't even got to be from the original Massa, but we're gonna bring them to some Massa, and they're gonna, we're going to put them back under repression and back under that subjugation. So the mannerisms in which they did that were really just deceptive and slave catcher-like. So, we see just those parallelisms of get back in your place, nigga.
Okay. And here's one thing when I want to also preference. I was out there. I didn't see no vandalism. You know what I mean? If you want to say putting in some literature on people's car as vandalism, okay. If you want to call some people burning sage vandalism, okay. But it was so dark walking down that street, and I think it was dark on purpose for real, that I don't know how a cop, because they were very focused on the group. I don't think they was focused on cars, and there weren't people outside saying, look, my car, because they was moving us forward. Now, I will also preference and say that if we have been at this thing, and I will say that 2014 has been kind of like the era of where this big kind of protesting in a consistent basis year to year has happened, I can name the numerous arrests pretty much on my fingers and yours, compared to the 80 plus that they did after walking in a privileged white community. And let's go through some of the big ones that should have had Negroes in paddy wagons. I'll preference Golden 1. Yeah. Nobody got arrested. I'll say the highways, freeways. Nobody got arrested. I will say the city council meeting several times. There was on one occasion someone got arrested, and that someone who got arrested wasn't even a part of the activists or protesters dealing with that case. When the BLM, who has spent almost a year at the DA's office, there's only probably 2 or 3 people that got arrested, and they got arrested because the slave catchers provoked them in a situation sort of like what you're talking about, right? So we also then preference into the shutdown of the mall. We walked in, stayed. They said, hey, you got about 5 more minutes. Matter of fact, let's make that a minute. And we walked out. Nobody got arrested. Held court in the street in front of the mall, and nobody got arrested. What I'm basically saying is, why, and I'm going to go throw this to you, Mama Ro, why, if we have had protest after protest, and some of the protests, especially at Golden One, I ain't gonna lie, there was some destruction of some property. Not in a sense of we're throwing chairs at windows, but some things got messed up out there. Why now, since we walked into a community of privilege, why was there an arrest of 80 plus people in Sacramento?
Because you're not supposed to be in their name. I pay the police to protect my very property.
Talk to him, Queen.
Let's just be honest.
No, let's be honest.
I could like
I need
make
this.
up some
I'm just
shit,
saying,
but,
come on now.
It
Be
is
honest.
what it is. No, honestly, I feel like that we know that that's their job. You know what I mean? We know that the Rolling 40s is like our Beverly Hills. You know, look, they have beautiful homes out there. I mean, some of them look like you're in Beverly Hills. If you go to certain sections, they have like some of the same style.
Yes.
And so they call the Rolling 40s of 1940s. They built those big, beautiful mansions. That's where that kind of comes from. But I also think, Barry, there is a level of, I'm not playing with you niggas tonight.
Wow.
I let y'all do the little thing at the mall. You know, I took, you know, we tried to pit up with y'all. You know, California has its reputation.
Yeah.
But then also, come on, like the same way our ancestors left other areas looking for a better life, so did other racist ass white folks left their places looking for a better life. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So we know that. They said that the Ku Klux Klan has infiltrated every law enforcement agency, and a lot of them now, they're not like some person with a bull weevil or whatever. Some of them have MBAs, some of them have PhDs, some of them are the chief of police, some of them have lawyers. I mean, they're not just, you know, Klan with hoods on their heads. You know what I mean? Come here, we just talking, we don't lie. So I'm saying, I think sometimes we forget that kind of behavior.
Yeah.
So much so that, let's go back to Chief Hahn for just a minute.
Well, please do.
Because he's a black man from history to
Yes,
it.
ma'am.
It has the most history than any part of Sacramento that you could see it, and those families are still there.
And probably the blackest.
And probably the blackest, honestly, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
However, what can he do? And it's like this dude who just got elected the head of the alt-right or some crap. I can't remember the name of it. Some dude just got the
Black
president.
Dude.
No, I'm not BSing.
Yeah,
You
black
know what I'm
dude.
talking about? The black dude just got elected.
Yeah, I seen him.
The,
I don't know.
What
That's
can
crazy.
he
I don't even
really
know
do?
Yeah.
It's like me being at a Klan rally, you know, talking about y'all just need to blend in with the rest of us. They would tar and feather me before I can get out the door. I mean, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, what can he really do? What statement can he make that we can really trust when he's a part of a system that is built upon the backs and the suffering and the terror and the lynching of our people?
Wow.
Like, what can we expect? It's like having a poisonous cake, and then we're going to take the white icing off and put some chocolate icing on.
Wow.
The cake is still poison.
Okay.
Even if it looks good, because now there's some chocolate icing on it if you into chocolate. So I think we know why they had to show some force. Like, okay, you Negroes, this was cute, you know, but you fucking in the wrong neighborhood. This is not the mall where you're gonna be affecting some people. Because I mean, I love your concept when you talked about disrupting businesses, but they know that's attached to us again because we're consumers.
Yeah.
But when you talk about going to where the money is, if you talk about going to where they live,
And
now there's a problem.
And we know if it's any one of you Negroes are so separated and removed from the Negro struggle that you're going to be just as mad as us that they going here keeping us up for
Because the
sleep.
person's job is at stake. Let's just be honest. Negroes, look, job is like saying life to some people.
Man.
Some people don't know struggle. They don't know what it's like to eat beans and that's all you had because some of us have not been in that struggle ever. Like, we don't even remember when we did struggle that way. You know what I mean? We really just don't get that part. And so it's kind of like we got to be more strategic. So I love seeing the young people, and I get the clergy. I totally, they always been there.
Yeah.
Older people, well, yes, we should have been old. I remember the 80s. I remember a lot of the stuff that was going on. But I like seeing this younger generation, even doing their little movements. I'm not saying little, but their movement to like even sit in that mall with that sign, to me was very powerful. in itself, but I also know you have to pull at the conscience if there's any of black people who are in those kind of places, like Chief Hahn. I think he does owe us. So you can't use the black card to benefit you. When it talks about now, what does that black card mean?
Okay.
Now you have to say. Now you have to say something to us, Chief Hahn.
What you gotta say now?
Now you gotta, cause you just can't say I'm black and I'm here.
I get
no,
it.
boo.
Yeah.
No. Now you gotta show and prove. You gotta show and prove something. That's like the black woman that's running for president. She had to say to Israel, because her husband is Jewish, I support Israel.
Okay.
She didn't get to say, oh, you're going to be represented through my husband because I'm married to a Jewish man. No, she had to speak to the people and promise us some things and deliver on them.
Speak that.
But I don't get to see black so-called politicians saying stuff
because the niggas are scared to even talk about reparations.
Stop.
Let's go, but we don't even talk about that yet.
All right.
Let's now go deeper, because you said a lot of things. You both said a lot of things pointed out. Now, when we talk about protect, we'll go a little bit deeper. Let's say we continue this, we're going to attack these rich, fluent, white neighborhoods. Right? My guess is this. The level of protection will not just come from police, aka the slave catchers. The level of protection will come from the actual community. We keep this up and move in the volume the way we're moving, you will see not white militia groups, not yet, but white neighbors gathering and making sure they protect their property, they protect their land, they protect their area. I'm trying to figure out, why is it so taboo for us to stand in that, but knowing if we did 3 more days, maybe 1 more day of march protest, not only would we have to worry about the slave catchers, but we're going to have to worry about one of those neighbors shooting us down. What y'all think about that piece?
It's possible, because that's their God-given right. See, the
That's
difference
love.
is that they're human beings. They know they're human beings. They walk as human beings. They may not see you as a human being, but when you're a human being in America and you're an American, that go back to this American, you have the right to defend yourself. That's why people love their guns. They'll try to take guns away from your black ass, but white people ain't giving up their guns.
So we can say,
my gun.
yeah, because so we can say that eventually, if we keep this up, we can see something like that happen.
You know what? Here's the thing. That's possible. Yeah, that's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I also think that is where, and this is how you get other people to the fight who may not be in the fight. Because I know I ain't gonna front, because I was busy working. When I seen those lives with y'all getting arrested, I immediately was on the phone with people like, hey, hold the fuck up. Yep. We gotta get up. I gotta get. That was like midnight, I think, or somewhere. And that's why. And I was like, I got to go. Let me get the
that's
van.
Why we have some little bit of leverage with certain folks.
And that's how you pull people. I hate to say this, but sacrifice always has a hint of bloodshed in it. And that's the shit we ain't used to. So it's cute to be locking arms and we having our Dr. King moment.
Nah, I want my Malcolm moment.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. But I'm saying, when I seen that, I was like, okay, wait a minute. I'm supposed to do something here. I'm supposed to do something here. That's my babies out there. Like, I'm supposed to go do something. So I'm saying that to you to say that's something we need to really, really, really think about. You know what I mean? How do you think we can support you all in what you're doing? For some of us who never even, been at that fight. Because I know we sit at home and be tugged like, oh, what the hell's going on? Wait, where they at? Like, what can we do?
Man, over the past day, since even the Arden shutdown, the community has just showed love. Offering anything we need. One of the first things Barry did was get us in touch with the civil rights attorney to, let us know how to interact with the police in this situation. And once we shut down the mall and we're outside, the community came together and brought food, help spread word. Now we're like, have this, I won't say intersectionality, but we have that that network of people, hey, we're doing this, the students are doing this, not necessarily, the adults, but literally the students are planning this. We just need y'all to come out in numbers, support, we're just trying to spread it. Because we have what we believe will work. We have our ideas, we have our plans, so all we need is support from the community. Just in manners that happen, especially after Monday night, with everyone offering, finding different ways to offer free legal service, for the, there were about 25 or 30 black student union students from Davis to Sac City to Sac State that were arrested. So on top of the course load of going through school and the microaggressions that come with being on PWIs, we are also fighting the fight that our ancestors and our grandparents did
Right on.
that we want to continue. So, just any way you can support us with regards to support mentally, spiritually, physically, just keeping the fight going, because we're, my peers are determined. They are, getting arrested didn't I guess stifle any kind of revolutionary talk. Getting arrested, to me, I was in the back cracking jokes on the officers. It made me want to keep doing this, keep the fight going. Like it's been 50 plus years since the civil rights movement. We're still fighting for the same kind of things against police brutality. So just getting arrested really wasn't a moment that wanted to draw back and be like, nah, I'm cool off this. It's like, nah, I want to keep fighting. And that's a lot of my peers feel. So we're just ready. We just need support.
Right on. Just tell us what you need. And I'm going to tell you why I say that. I think for me, it's easy for me to support young people than grown people. Because grown people have agendas. That's why I'm not mentioning too much of the clergy. I mean, God bless you, you with Jesus and all that, or whatever it is you believe. There's nothing wrong with that. But young people, your stuff is a little bit more pure. And I want to see you live, because I know you're doing it from an organic place, that you're young. You're trying to figure. We want to make sure y'all future, you have way more opportunities than we had. I think that's why some of us who normally like, oh, they out there, whatever. But when I see young people, my ears perk up. I'm like, what are we supposed to do to help y'all? Y'all just have to tell us, just what you're saying, come down, support us. I felt like, even when all that going down, I think a lot of adults should have got out their bed and been behind the cops. Like, what is this about? It's kind of like when somebody picking on you, they turn around and see your big mama and your big daddy said, like, oh, this your cat? Yeah, this is my baby. Yeah. Like, we got to have y'all back like that, because that's what it is all about in the core. I think sometimes, and I get the whole thing with Stephon Clark, but I think sometimes we lose sight when we focus on one person, when we know it's about a bigger issue in our community. And when it comes to black men and safety and black women and safety, like, it's much bigger than that. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about how did y'all really come up with the mall? Like, I mean, for real, did y'all sit down and talk to each other? Did y'all just have a moment where it's like, y'all, we got to do something? How did y'all come to that?
I got off work at that was Saturday, right? Yeah, it was Saturday. I got off work at 5 o'clock. Me and Sister Carr had been talking a little bit about what we were gonna do, when we got off. Trying to figure out where the move was. I was talking to Josh from Sac City as well. When I got off, I was like, okay, I heard they go be out Freeport outside the police department. So I went down there. I'm like, they're not really doing nothing, but like, everyone, was smiling for the cameras. They, had music playing. I'm like, man, the city's too quiet. The city's too quiet after the way she just dehumanized Stephon. It's not even a verdict. We all knew the verdict and what it was going to be, but the way she did it had me hot, for real. That's where the emotion came from, was the way she did it, not necessarily her not charging officers, because we knew. So as I'm leaving, I'm like, let me see what the DA office talking about. Sister Carr called me saying, where you headed? I'm at the police stop. I'm like, it's not really the environment I want to be in right now. So let's go down to the DA's office and see what's up. Both got down there and saw it was empty at the DA's office. I understand they were protesting before that, but it was, it's 6 o'clock at this time and nobody's out. So I'm like, we got to do something. So we just kind of pulled up to a spot, did our options, find out what we can do. If we can go outside, maybe the DA's house, find the mayor's house, if we can protest outside there. Then she's like, oh, let's, we sat there for maybe 20 minutes. She's like, let's disrupt the economy. Let's go to Arden before they close down. They shut down at 9. We got to get there. It's about 7:30, 8 o'clock right now. Just gather our BSU students as many as we can. Get our connects out real quick, and let's get to Arden. And that was really how it happened. It was improv like that. We developed the demands. Barry helped us structure, the plan. And when he got there, we were just really planning to sit there and protest and get kicked out, forcibly by the police. Barry came and helped us with the structure. We developed the demands for when the press was gonna get there in the morning, and that was really how that happened. There was really no plan. It was really improv off the top of the dome. Let's do this because we're not satisfied with how the city's quiet right now. So like the city don't even care. They prepared for the business to shut down downtown, for lawmakers to get out of town before the night hit, I guess. So it was just an insult to see how the city was quiet at the verdict and how she dehumanized Stephon.
What was it like being held there at Cal Expo? And have you ever been to that part of
Boy,
California?
that's we were talking about. You know, on the way there, we're like, man, we didn't even know this was here. This is like some internment camp looking type, you know, entity. So we're like, man, we got to research this now because you know when the fair isn't there, you don't know what's going on in the, you know, in that boundary. So we're like, I'm glad we know this here now because we had no idea it was there. Because you know, people start coming up lost. We like they may be down deep in Cal Expo with the police somewhere. So it was, it wasn't really. It was just an interesting kind of transition because no one knew that was there. Like, take us to Cal Expo. Like, where the hell is Cal Expo? Are they going to take us? So seeing that, told you me. I was in the sheriff bus with my sister Maya and with sister Takara. We just back there. I'm cracking jokes in the back of the bus because, you know, our spirits had, you know, weren't messed with. Our spirits weren't filtered. You know, we kept that spirit up, and it is actually, you know, it was as a fun transition, but you know, they kind of ignited that flame in us even more to keep this going.
Right on, right on. Now that's good to know, because I just want to know, when you came out, what was your feeling when you were, after they gave you your citation or whatever, what was your feeling then?
My feeling was, you know, my biggest feeling was that, I'm sure a lot of people couldn't see in the video, but you know, kind of heard it. There was some sisters before we got arrested when we were surrounded. She was having a panic attack. So, you know, I grabbed her to make her, she was sitting there crying in my arms. And there was a few of her friends. I didn't realize until, you know, I got detained, that they were closer to the police than I was, and they were crying too. You know, just making sure they were good was really my biggest concern getting out. Of course, my friends and everything, I didn't know, you know, I knew we were all going to be here if we were being taken here, and I've been through the, you know, the booking process, so it wasn't too bad. But making sure they were good, because I wouldn't know, I remember her saying her age, and it sounded like she was 18, so I wasn't sure if they got back to their parents or where they got back to if her friends were underage. So my biggest concern when we got out was making sure they were good, because they were both snot running from the nose. She was having a panic attack.
Right on.
So
It's a little bit different when you can yell, scream, and kind of do what you want, and then finally the batons come out, pepper spray come out, and things get real. Because now that trauma, right? That trauma, it triggers you because you know the end result of a confrontation, or not even a confrontation, but when you're involved with police sharing that same space, what has happened, what has been so many of the outcomes for so many black people, right? So you're in your mind, in your head, you're thinking, could this be it, right? Like literally, we're thinking in your mind, could this be the day? Can I now become tomorrow morning the next hashtag? Will it be me now they march for? And I really believe when we kind of dive into the idea, right, of the sacrifices we make every day when folks come out, whether you are young, you're old, and you've done it for 10 years, you're just starting it, how much you sacrifice by putting your life on the line for something that's bigger than yourself, a cause that you will probably never get the just desserts of the sacrifice, right? But it might save somebody later down the line. But when you did engage with the slave catcher, and you engage with these officers that have killed your brothers and sisters, why wouldn't they do that to you? And I think that's the only reason why I actually was happy it was 80 plus, because 80 plus means you're not going to bring them to the I Street. You're not going to bring them down to I Street. I Street is where you die, right? So if it was nephew, my brother Pastor Les Simmons, my brother Ryan, let's say it was 3 prominent leaders that they took, right? Maybe some of our young female leadership that was out there, Dr. Flo and some other young ladies that was out there, right? Then I'm going to get worried. Then I'm going to say, wait, how many did they get? 5 of them? Someone could get hurt in that process. When I heard 80, I felt a little bit better saying, okay, this is going to be a process. Now they'll be able to transition easier than it'd be 5 people, 1 person, and you're really going to have your antennas up.
Well, I say this, I salute you, young brother, for being out there, for also, usually the people who kick the door down are usually not the people who walk through the door. That's why we have people in positions who did not earn those positions. They were earned by people who didn't get the benefit, but they did. You know what I mean? So when people think they standing somewhere by themselves, you're really not. You're standing there because somebody else fought for you to be there. Sister Takara, yes, peace Takara, another sister out there. It's just, I just feel like those of us who remember those times, who, if you do a lot of studying, it is time for you now to report to the battlefield. We know these times are coming. Like, we got to make sure we're there to protect each other, to do all that we need to ensure. I'm just so proud of y'all. I mean, I get the clergy, and I'm not leaving them out, but I'm proud of young people Because when y'all come to the fight, now we are truly in the fight.
Yeah.
We know that we've been at war for over 400 and something years. I know people like, wow, that's how you been at war that long. Hell yeah, you been at war that long. You know what I mean? Since we've been here, when you wake up every morning, you're almost in warfare. Every morning you got to fight to keep
We're
yourself
behind
safe.
enemy lines.
Yeah.
Like, let's
So,
be honest.
You know, what are the next plans? What's going on next? Now, I did hear that there's supposed to be a talk of some walkouts at school.
Dun,
Now, I don't know how this works because I'm from old school. Usually, when you do something, you don't broadcast it.
You're right.
So I'm from a different time.
It's a
When
new
you-
school
when you-
era. It's
yeah.
a new kind of
I don't
activism.
know because
I mean-
then your enemies know. Like, what's the element of
But
surprise?
what they're gonna do,
that's
true. But what they're gonna do when a bunch of black people walk out of school?
Well, they ain't gonna
I'm
do
just
that.
saying, though.
They're gonna be like, thank God. No, I'm just kidding. The kitchen is empty. No, I'm just kidding. No,
They gonna lose some money. That's what's gonna happen.
They are.
No doubt. What
They
you do?
already, Sac City, see, this is the other thing.
Exactly.
Sac City school district's already suffering. They getting ready to have receivership if they can't get their stuff together.
Wow.
You know, did y'all know about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, and is that a bad idea? I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. If people got big salaries, you know, and you trying to
But-
figure out how do we balance your budget.
But I think that in the idea of looking what the Oakland folks did with the Oakland strike for the
They
teachers,
looking at that. We was in the
I mean, we
meeting
have to
yesterday
look
about
at
that
those
yesterday.
ideas of why that's so important.
Yeah.
Like, why is that so important that when injustice is happening, that we do stand up, we do make the
I agree.
sacrifice, we do walk out. If that's the only power we have, it's not like we can take these people out. Like when somebody was at our protest after the sit-in and we was holding court, we was actually holding court in the streets. And please, nephew, get that tuned up for the demands because I want to hear that right quick. We held court in the street, and what we had to stop and kill was a brother coming in saying, well, we gotta go kill the police, because that's the only way they're gonna go. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And here's what I'm saying.
Wow.
I'm with all that. I'm with all that. But I don't subscribe to that, because that's not my play.
I get
But
it.
if it's for any Negro out here that's on that level of suicide, that wants to go ahead, grab the strap, and get to bucking,
But people-
do what you need to do.
But
But
people-
don't broadcast that
yeah,
to
I
us
agree. I
to
agree.
build us
I
up
agree.
and try to put us all in a group in a frame, because the stereotype is already there that all Negroes got guns and all Negroes are shooters. So we
know
don't
that
have
is true.
time for the village to get
Okay,
destroyed
I get
because
that.
of one person. So if
I agree
you
with
are
you.
out there ready for that kind of combat, I'm saying I applaud
So
you,
my
do it, but be careful.
Right on, and I agree with you. But I also think that's Asian provocateur, but that's a whole nother story. That's why you got to study your history. Because when you look, people 25 years later, after the Black Power movement discovered that people were agents in the whole nine,
Yes, ma'am.
and they got
Facts.
to compare notes and was like, he was over there, he was over here too, and
Yeah,
like the Black Klansman. We celebrate him with the Black Klansman, but this was the same man who infiltrated the Black Panthers in the
Black-
Nation of Islam.
Black
So let's
Klansman,
let's not get it twisted.
The most comfortable white movie that we've seen in the last 5 years.
I didn't watch
Assigned
it.
Degree.
No, I love
I'm
that.
just
I
honest,
watched
let's
it,
be
so I
honest.
love it.
I mean, we're gonna be honest. Let's be honest.
Yeah. However, I'm gonna say when you walk out, this is the part I'm talking about. What's the plan?
So
You know, what's the plan? Help me out,
yeah,
brother.
Definitely. So first, I want to start off that it's focused between Sac High, Sac City, and Sac State. This has been spearheaded mainly by Josh. However, I want to include Sac High particularly because Sac High has proven to be the spearhead for high school students protesting. Given that we have the Ardent 13, and we have our demands, I went to, and particularly the coalition of black students, you know, being the high school students also have a voice, and, you know, a lot of the older politicians, the lawmakers, don't want to listen to us because, you know, they feel like either we don't know what we're talking about, you know, our voices aren't that loud, essentially. So I want to amplify the demands from Sac High as well and incorporate them into our demands so they get their needs met. Because at the end of the day, you know, we all have our struggles throughout the
Right on.
diaspora, throughout different age groups and different aspects of life with regards to high school, college, pre-K, adult, any kind of, you know, all that manner. So what the plan is for that, I'll actually be at the press conference for AB 932, but my students my peers at Sac State are going to walk out as well. We're all going to meet at Sac High, have a demonstration, and from Sac High, we're going to end up marching downtown with our, Josh and I believe a few other individuals are creating posters, specifically for police gun reform. That will be the focus of that march that downtown while we're presenting to the I can't speak anymore.
That's tomorrow.
Yeah, no, this is Thursday. Okay, my days of the week have been all bunched
Okay,
up.
right on. That makes sense.
Brother, you ain't got that much sleep. You've been in jail. You stayed up all night with me and the rest of the fans.
Right.
Come on, brother. You need some sleep.
Yeah.
What is AB 932?
I'm sorry, I said it's 392. I apologize.
392, okay.
Yes, I get the numbers wrong.
89, you said 32 or 20?
392.
And can you break that down just a
What is
little
that?
bit?
What is that?
Yeah. So the California legal code regarding use of force has not been altered or I guess amended in any way since 1872, I believe. It's mid in the 1870s.
1872. 1872. So we was out of slavery for what? Maybe 5 years
Yes,
or something like
yes.
that.
1872.
Something like 8 years. That's ridiculous.
And so now do you understand why we preference police as what? Slave catchers. Come on, break it down.
1872.
So yeah, it hasn't been
Let's
amended.
give them education.
It
Break it
hasn't
down.
been amended since the 1870s.
Wow.
And what this bill that was co-authored by Assemblymember McCarty and Assemblymember Dr. Weber intends to do is to essentially restrict the amount of restrict the times officers can use lethal force. They would have to exhaust every other necessary way of non-lethal force before they can presume to use lethal force. This will also change within the wording from reasonable force to necessary. I can go a little bit more into it. I've made a post about it when the Senate passed it. However, it was shelved last year after it went back into the Assembly. So if I break it down a little bit, what the actual words are in the, so I was right, it was 1872. But the wording in the actual penal code states it allows for all reasonable means to effect the arrest. That word reasonable is used throughout the legal diaspora with regards to reasonable doubt of committing of a crime. The DA would use it. So this word reasonable, it's so ambiguous, but it's used so often. It was also disproportionately affects the black community with regards to policing and with regards to the legal system.
So does that also mean when you say I feared for my life, that's kind of like the content of what that kind of channel is to protect it?
The question that the attorney or the law system asks is that was it reasonable for the officer to fear for his life? And that word reasonable again is kind of ambiguous with regards to how we go through our legal system essentially. So that word reasonable. If I were to ask you that question, then we would go into what the evidence of, let's say, Stephon. From the law enforcement perspective or from the prosecutor perspective, was he justified in firing shots because he reasonably felt a fear for his life?
Okay.
Right on.
So,
I get that. I get
given-
that.
Since 1872.
Since 1872.
Wow.
we in 2019.
But it's the system, though, Barry.
Jesus
I think at
Christ.
the end of the day, you gotta remember you're fighting this system that supports. It's like you're fighting the system, but the system is also racism, is classism, is economics, is. But to me, the whole thing is cloaked in white supremacy.
Definitely. I know.
So-
I don't mean to cut you off, but I know you've read Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's
Oh,
ISIS papers.
yes, of course.
And she explains
She
that
explains everything.
perfectly, how this
Yeah.
global white supremacism uses entertainment, law, economics, food,
yeah,
all of
right
that.
on.
Global white
Gender.
supremacy
Yeah.
is permeated through
Colorism.
these multiple forms of themes,
Right
whether
on.
you have economics, law,
Yes.
and then
Right
at the
on.
middle is domestic white supremacy. So they use all these forms of tools of
Right on.
to
Talk
enforce
to
their white those white dominance to make us subordinate, and some of us, I guess,
Fall
assimilate
into
to
it,
it. Some of
assimilate.
us assimilate to it, so we fall in it. But at the end of the day,
Or some of us die in it.
Some of us die in it. It reinforces global white supremacy on a domestic level. So let's
Talk
take
to 'em.
Europe and the United States. The United States is the annexation of Europe,
Talk to
Yeah.
me.
which is why we have the United States as a colonizer. You have all of Europe as a colonizer, and who do they subjugate? Black people throughout the world, South America, the Caribbean islands, Africa.
Talk to
Even the black persons, the dark-skinned persons in Asia were colonized. So let's not
Right
think
on.
that
Right on. Right on.
it's really all global white
Be honest.
supremacy. And in that scope, we need to look at it in that manner. That the problem is white supremacy and the establishment of that from the capitalistic greed of the United States and Europe. And that's
But
just
With
the
that
right
being
understanding.
said, do you think they would ever really create anything that will protect who we are?
No.
Hell, we didn't even get reparations.
I'm thinking in this white capitalist system, we don't get reparations from the same people who took us from the homeland.
But again, I hear that.
Barry, like,
Why
yes,
you-
we is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, we is. But we need all. We know his thing. We need
Listen,
all of us.
I
I'm
understand
willing to take
it,
with everybody.
but I'd rather
Yes.
argue and fight
I agree.
for some reparations that I
I'm with
may possibly get than beg someone to stop killing me. Because I mean, I understand everything that y'all saying.
No,
because
I
this is
agree.
all about. At the end of the day, as my brother Nasir always tells us, do for self.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
gotta do for self. So I mean, that is the framework of the reality is we must be able to do for self.
I agree.
So our reality becomes what do we want to plant the seed for to see grow. So if we don't want to sit there and see all of the killings, then we need to start growing the buildings that will stop the killings and the fabric that will not have folks come into our community to over police us.
I get that. I got ditto. But in
And
that
diddle,
do, yeah,
back.
yeah. But in that do for self mean we still gotta be fair with each other.
Yes, ma'am.
See, for me, I ain't worried about white folks.
Talk
They
to me.
this is who they are.
Okay.
Shit, the history. My Uncle Stanley would say, why are you worried about? You know that the devil's job is. You know what the hell they do.
No doubt.
What about your job?
Mm.
Can you police yourself? Can you protect yourself? Can you provide for yourself? And we're gonna talk about black business. Can we be fair with each other in black
and let me
businesses?
say that-
Can we do all that? Are we capable of governing oneself?
And even saying that, I think sometimes we fight the fights we fight against white supremacy because we are in fear of having to look at ourselves, point the finger and say, hey, can you? Thank
They
you.
do
I
you
need
extra.
that.
They do you extra.
because it's easy for me to say, well, John, you have the problem.
That's what
then
you
to
coming
look
back
at
to
the
me.
problem that I have that allows John
That's
to
what
do
you
what
coming
John
back to
does
me.
to me.
That's right.
Right?
And some of us are fighting to be John.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we have to not start looking at the abuser. We have to start asking ourselves, well, why the hell are we still being abused? The Negro is in a domestic violence relationship with white America.
That's real talk.
We have found ourselves so
That's deep.
willing, so
That's
enabling behavior, characteristics, culture that's not ours, adopting so many things that are not fluent to our survival just to be content with the acceptance of we live here in America.
Right.
Knowing damn well in our ancestry history, we are the beginning and we are the end of civilization.
Right on.
So let's be very clear that this battle that we're fighting is not only a battle against them, but a battle against self.
It's the inner battle.
And the inner battle, I think, is always the most challenging thing. I had an inner battle. You've had an inner battle. Queens had an inner
right.
battle. Folks that are watching have had that inner battle.
Right.
When I had to finally say to myself, enough with the damn excuses, and let me get into me to figure out how am I going to move and become the better me that I can be for myself. And that's why I've been able to do the things I'm doing and I'm working the way I work. Because
Right.
I finally said, I can't blame daddy. I can't blame I ain't got a mama. I can't blame the fact that the teacher called me this, that, and the other.
Right
I
on.
can't blame my friends that misled me, that I let them mislead me. I have to start looking at self. But that, again, I don't want y'all to think that, okay, Barry ain't gonna get on the white folks. But
No,
hey,
no,
I'm
no.
still getting it. But I definitely know out of all of this shifting and changing,
Oh,
you know what I'm
shit.
doing? I'm building with my people.
Right on. I agree.
Unapologetically.
No, right,
So
right
as
on.
I'm not just you, please you, and then go try to find a job and go work for them, and then I'm still trying to say, well, I don't like how you're doing this. What I did is when I worked, and this is not knocking anybody that works, because everybody
Right
has to
on.
work for something.
I get that.
ain't
I get
knocking
that,
it. I'm
bro.
just saying for me,
I get
I
that.
had to say, if I don't like how they're working, I have to do something, and that's why I started my own organization. So then I can have a phone call in the middle of the night or in the night when my youngsters say, we need you, man, right here, ASAP. I can't say, oh, nephew, I got to go to work early in the morning, because this is my work. I'm on duty, right? I'm on the call of duty every day.
Right.
But the Negro, if we want to move this forward thinking, forward pressing, the biggest thing that we have to do, and I think the one thing that will come out of this Stephon Clark thing, I believe it is so. We have so many builders that have been building even before that.
Right on.
People like yourself, Marvin
Right on,
Rowe,
right on.
and we got so many other folks that have been doing the work, right? That we're going to be able to get what we need to kind of build the village up. And I believe that is kind of what I see moving forward. I'm going to step out.
I believe that's going. I got you.
I'm going to step out. Y'all handle the rest.
I got you.
Love y'all. You know what I'm saying?
Always good. Thank you, Barry.
And I'm going to get to information because they're going to need you for the, you know what I mean?
Okay. I got you. So let's dig into this a little bit. Let me ask you: do you think black folks need federal protection? My friend Javon always says black folks need federal protection.
In what manner? Federal protection.
In terms of
economically?
housing, in terms of jobs, in terms of economics, like, because
well.
once there's other groups here that even we not only have to fight white people, we have to also fight the other groups that are here too, because they have anti-blackness.
Well, no, that's a great point. But if we talk about federal protection, I can go into this economically, and this is where my economics and black economics degree kicks in.
I love it.
Let's break down. So we had the New Deal program. We had 1940s to 1930s where black people went from the party of Lincoln, the Republican Party, to Democratic Party because FDR was providing public housing, all these housing programs. What people don't, a lot of people really don't know is that FDR was just as racist as Woodrow Wilson. He was just as racist as any other white president.
Right on.
And what's it's called during 1930s is what happens. It's called kind of like state-regulated economy, where the state actually plans the economy as opposed to free market economy. So which is why you see the government will have more control of the economic factors of cities, states, and all of that. So during that time, you have these New Deal programs, these public housing programs, these suburbanization, these FHA subsidized loan programs. Black people was ostracized, and we were not included in any of that. Those VA housing programs, when Black World War II veterans, World War I veterans came back from the war, they were excluded from any of those VA benefits for public housing. So federal protections in a inherently racist government structure is just really not viable or not really going to happen for Black people because, you know, we've seen historically that protections for Black people from the federal government often make us worse off.
Wow.
And even to this extent, let's say if you were Black in the South when FDR was president, being a Democrat, FDR still had to appeal to Southern Democrats because think about it, the party in the South was Democrat at first. The Democrats created the KKK. Then the ideology switched as Black folks began to vote for them under FDR. However, FDR still had to appeal to Southern Democrats. I believe it was Woodrow Wilson before FDR who passed. It was a farming act, I believe. However, that farm ostracized Black folks in the South from being able to own and have their own land to farm, but it gave money and loans to white farmers to be able to build on that.
Wow.
So you see, when we have that state kind of regulated market, everything goes back to white folks in some manner, and Black people are either not included or in the legislation, or in some manner, or they're found a way to not be included in the economic bringing. So then we go through the 1930s to the 60s, which we have this Keynesian.
Get this history lesson, y'all. Get this history lesson. Go ahead,
We
bro.
have this kind of Keynesian economic thought. Keynesian economic thought is a state regulation of the market. You know, they focus on a welfare state. That means they're going to focus on reducing unemployment. Everyone's going to be taken care of, but Black folks aren't being taken care of. Also through this time, we have the suburbanization period. We have white flight. During the 30s and the 60s, at the end of the 60s, you start seeing the Cold War. However, the United States was battling the front against anti-communism. So in a way to incorporate people and indoctrinate people into the capitalist system, they said, hey, let's give out these government-subsidized mortgages, you know, little risk because the government subsidizes them, little down, and everyone's getting houses. We see today that has trickled down into generational wealth, but again, because under FDR and that economic mindset, we were not included in any of that.
Right on.
We on top of redlining. So there's a book called Color of Law, and it goes on how the government backed a lot of those banking practices in violation of the 13th and 14th Amendment, which basically, the 14th and 15th, which basically say that be equal to state citizens. But they were not being equal to Black citizens, so it was in direct violation of these constitutional amendments that the cities got around by economic ordinances with racial undertones, through racial covenants, through housing deeds. The FHA underwriting manual to this day still says do not insure Negro homes, essentially. Something of that manner. So it still says that, and that's something in the direct underwriting manual that was promulgated in 1934, which is when FHA was created under FDR. So this is kind of like transcends into today, where we're still having this equity, this generational wealth gap, and this inequities between inequitable disparities between white folks and Black people. And then when we switch to what's called Reaganomics, essentially, but in 1970s, however, in economic terms, it's just an economic neoliberal mindset. Often criticized the trickle-down economics and Reaganomics. But what has also exacerbated the Black wealth or any kind of Black money that we've been able to get has been crisis. So from the switch to Keynesianism, which had a very stable market up until the 60s, when we saw what's called stagflation, the rising interest rates and rising inflation, but wages were decreasing. That's when Nixon actually imposed the Economic Stability Program in, I believe, I forgot what year that was. That's the date. I'm going to get back on that.
That's all right.
But then we have the switch to this kind of free market. Let the market take care of itself. The government's not going to have a big hand. It's not going to be very regulated. However, what that comes, just to control inflation, I must put in there. But with that comes the onset of these economic crises. So we start seeing a lot more market volatility over these market cycles. And we can focus on precipitously the 2008 crisis. Any of the Black wealth that was created in the 2008 crisis was gone.
Wow.
And wiped out. I believe I did a paper on it, said about 2/3 of the Black wealth that was created up until that point had been wiped out by the 2008 financial crisis. And even though the passing of Fair Housing Acts were implemented, they've still been in some way practiced, undermining that, Fair Housing Act essentially.
So as we get this wrap up in there, you so knowledgeable, you got to come break down a lot of these terms, because I think we need to know about this. Connect all that you said to this case around Stephon Clark, around the treatment from the DA, from the, who was that, the guy who just did it after her?
Attorney General.
Attorney General.
Yeah.
How does all of that history has to do with the treatment that we received from those two people who are part of that bigger system?
Definitely. From my perspective, everything at the base of everything, politics and even legislation, even law, the judicial system, the criminal justice system, is the economics of it. So let's begin from the slave catcher parallel that we talked about today. However, let's also think about the economic importance of the slave trade, the economic impact of slaves to generate that wealth. There was a book I read called The Empire of Cotton that kind of had made focus on 3 chapters about how important actually the Atlantic slave trade and black slaves in the South were to not just the domestic cotton system, but the global cotton market. It was because of the slaves that the global market for trade and commerce is here, literally. The way it became expanded because the South was creating so much wealth and so much profit because they were able to have cotton produced for so cheap because they had slave labor. They could sell it at lower prices at better quality in the international market. So let's go into that. It's all about the capitalist greed. Then you have slaves who are running away, taking away from your profit. Oh no! We need to set up that slave patrol. Our property is running away. Our profits are going away. Bring that back. We need our money back. No, we need to make our profits back. That efficiency. Capitalism has always been acquitted with having the highest efficiency in a money market, essentially. So let's take that back to today. We're marching in the Fab 40s, a very wealthy neighborhood. You got slaves running around in a very wealthy neighborhood fighting for their rights, waking you up. We've never seen a demonstration like that in Sacramento where 80 people have been arrested in our neighborhoods.
No, God, no.
So when we're in an affluent neighborhood, we have, we have proverbial slaves running around. Then the police force gets called. And I'll handle these slaves because they're messing up our economic institutions. So let's say we shut down art, and now we're in the Fab 40s. They're starting to mess with our economics. Oh no, get this under wire. Our profits are diminishing. So that's kind of that's a very simple parallel and a very simple explanation to how this affects how it is today and how we are policed to keep us in our marginalized state. I can go on all day about this, but
No, but that was good. I like the way you connected that, because I think sometimes the illusion is that somehow we're free, but we're still inside the same system in the same positions, but we don't know it because it's like the illusion of inclusion.
Yeah.
So I thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
We cannot have these notes up. Let us know what we can do to help you. I'm dead serious. I always tell it to Takar too. You gotta let us know how we can help you. Because I imagine in my mind, if those cops had looked up and we had all been standing behind them as the people, they'd have had to shut it down. But we gotta see ourselves having that kind of power. Not just leaving y'all hanging out there like that. So let us know. Thank you so much for coming in. I so enjoyed you. All right, family, we'll be back next week. And y'all take care. Peace.
See you.
Let me, hold on, don't move. Yeah, move. So I gotta shut all these things down. And this here. Okay, yeah.